Hello. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
hello, Jim. Yes.
Yep, thanks. Let's give people another minute or two to join. But if you will, please, put your name here in the Google Doc, this meeting as an attendee.
And if you don't, then I will put yours.
Okay, we're 4 minutes in, so I think we got pretty good quorum here. We do have a few topics on the agenda today. If you see the first one, I think I just reminded people at the beginning to, list your name under the attendees list in the Google Docs. And we do have a presenter here today, uh, Fabrizio.
Yeah, I'm here. There is me, Giri, and Parvati from Microsoft.
Okay, great. I think if you're ready to go, just go ahead and start.
Okay,
Sure.
absolutely. Uh, let me let me share my screen. So I can share from here. Okay, give me just a second. Okay, share. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Fabrizio.
Yes.
So today we are going over the OCP device attestation and what we did for the heat profile. It's going to be myself, Giri, and Parvati from Microsoft. Um, So let's start with why we did this at OCP. At OCP, we believe like in the standardization format interoperability, and we wanted to find a way for data center verifier to solve the problem that exists right now in the industry. Like right now, everyone has its own proprietary format for attestation, and the data center verifier needs to kind of like understand different formats. So there is an unscalable, this is an unscalable issue. As the number of devices in the data center are increasing, this is becoming a real problem. So we took a step on it and we explored solution, possible solution that could fix this problem. And at the time, it was because, oh, I see a hands raised, please.
Yeah, hey, thanks. So sorry for interjecting so quick, but I think it applies right from the get-go. I work on a data center verification service at Microsoft, an MAA, so um, the problem space I think is familiar to me. And the question is, um, there's at a high level, there's kind of two ways I think about making this easier for data center or verifiers. One is like a standard format, like is going here. Another is potentially like I guess where did the thinking fall in terms of like the vendors, the TE vendors basically providing a library that handles the attestation evidence and then perhaps has a common format coming out of the library, right? So is the is the kind of commonality for a verifier that the binary format is standard, or could there be a
Yeah, I
uh,
understand. There could be a
a
shim
shorter
layer
term
of it.
standard where maybe you have different libraries from different vendors deal with legacy formats and provide a standard format as a result of like the parse API or something like that.
And I agree that could be in the linear theory a possible solution. The only downside, as I'm reading what you're saying, I see in that approach is that when you start developing a new library, then you need to see if the new library will scale in adoption for proprietary verifier the data center can have. So there will be some interaction. You need to make sure that all the vendors will provide this translation library to parse their own custom report, and at the same time, that library could be integrated by many verifiers. It's possible. We will believe that it's easier if you start getting a step above and saying, hey, let's make this format equal, whether saying like the level when you do the translation is equal, basically the library. Yeah, but I agree, there could be a different kind of approach to solve the problem. We believed in the standardization of the format versus in the standardization of the library, and that's how we move forward on this one.
I think I totally I think I can totally see that the North Star that if folks would adopt it would be fantastic. If there is a common format. I guess I'm thinking about shorter term steps along the way. Formats or something. The serialized format may be something that may be less agile to change than like a library. And I guess mixed in with this is kind of my question about, um, does a TE vendor, like, what are they responsible? What ideally are they responsible for? Is it just the ability to create evidence and then, verifiers are on their own, or is it a standard format, or is it perhaps an implementation of verification for their attestation evidence anyway, perhaps consuming CORIM, et cetera, right? So it's and I don't know where it seems like we're all over the map as an industry in terms of how people approach that, right? So
And we are going there, Greg. Like that was just the first slide. We are going on what is our vision like, and probably the
Okay.
second portion of the slides. Like I hopefully we will be able to answer the second part of it. What is our vision? And in the second part of this conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, there's also a larger vision which I'll be presenting to the CCC TAC in the near future.
Right, thanks, Nathaniel.
And
So-
could you, I'm sorry, if there's a larger vision that's going to the TAC, could you be sure that if there's any docs or when the TAC meeting is going to happen, if that could be perhaps announced on the CCC Attestation SIG DL or something, so that.
It will, and all the docs are going to be public.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So going back here, like the solution we started taking and we started approaching was using it. At the time when we were exploring possible solution, we were seeing that it was just on the verge. It was just becoming an RFC. It was sometime last year around this time, pretty much there, and we wanted to find a common standard for attestation token, and it was the standard promoted by IATF RATS, and we started creating this profile and we decided also like working with OCP with Calyptra to having Calyptra being one on early adopter of this standard. And there is source code available into the Calyptra repo that basically will implement this profile. And the goal, like we said, like is implicitly like a single standardized format will simplify verification. The core innovation here is that that on this particular rate is the concise evidence. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the IT, like entity attestation token with the RATs, but basically it provide a signing schema which is similar to the same one as the CORIM, which is the co-assign one signing schema, and then provide a list of claimed set, which are pretty generic, are not really necessary. One that can be used for describe like the security configuration of a specific device. So the way it was taught was with socket-based claim called measurement claim, which can encapsulate proprietary claim set. And at the same time, we realized TCG developed like kind of like CD, like a data structure for representing claim, which we found very compelling, very compelling because it's for the reason like let me try to say here the concise evidence from from TCG is based on the reference triple for Corim. So the point and the beauty, like that I'm a fan of the concise evidence myself, is that you have a one-to-one mapping between the claims in the Corims and the claim like in the commit portion of the Corim in the reference triple and the claim that are in the concise evidence, just because they are expressed in the same CDDL semantics. So you will see the transformation of the claimed set of the quorum and the transformation of the claimed set of the concise evidence following the same exact equation, which makes this concise evidence schema powerful. So what we did here with the EAT format, basically the OCP EAT format, we, as you can see here, we encapsulate this concise evidence into the measurement map with a signature. And another thing we put into this EAT profile was to allow, like, the way to recognize to verify the signing key of the attestation token is including the certificate, at least the attesting certificate, but it's you can put more, but at least the attestation certificate should be included into the unprotected portion of the co-sign envelope. So they will basically give a self-contained schema, self-contained data structure, which include not only the claimed set of your attestation, which are part of the concise evidence, but also the certificate which signed this it. And the goal is that for the verifier to get this piece and be able to do pretty much everything by itself, assuming that it has a certificate chain like a trust anchor to authenticate this quasi-signed data structure. Like I said, just to give a double click here, we assign a need profile OID from OCP, and the claim that we are having is this measurement claim which expands with this evidence block. And it's interesting. The evidence triple, like I mentioned a few times, works same as it works the quorum reference triple. You have an array of tuples, which one part is the environment map, another part of the measurement map. Each environment map defines the component that that your attester will attest you, and the measurement map, the list of claims that describe this component, like digest, SVN, etc. And this has been completely borrowed from TCG. Like, we didn't change anything from TCG here. So now I'm
Fabrice,
go
there is a
ahead.
hand up. Osama has a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Thanks, Parvati. Please ask the question.
Sure, thanks. If you go back one slide, in my understanding, basically you are talking about the different things that go into the evidence. So one thing I see missing here is, and just to recap and to give you some context, probably you were in the OCP meeting I presented in October, like the attested TLS work.
Okay.
And in case you were not there, so one thing missing here is what is the connection of this evidence that is generated here to the connection which is underneath?
What do you mean?
So how does this evidence avoid the relay attack? That's my question. What is the
Sorry.
connection of this to?
Yeah. This is Gary here. Do you mind, Fabrizio, about trying to
You go,
answer?
please. Yes.
Yeah. So we haven't looked at OCP specifically in the context of the tested TLS, if that's what you're referring to. But I don't see a reason why the key material that would bind the attestation to the underlying TLS connection cannot be reflected in concise evidence. So we just haven't really, I don't think anybody's really looked at it yet, but I mean, I would imagine that, you'll be hard pressed to find anything that can't be reflected as concise evidence, in my opinion. So I think it's still possible.
Okay, so Giri, what you are saying is basically it's possible but not currently reflected. Is it a correct summary of that?
Well, the concise evidence is actually it actually allows for and now Fabrizio and Parvati may want to actually chime in on this. I believe the concise evidence allows for a lot of implementation specific measurable data to be included in the token, and part of it could be the use of a the use of an underlying transport layer security mechanism with specific key material. But Fabrizio, did you want to comment on it, or Parvati?
No, I think that the concise evidence is generic enough for doing whatever we want to do. It doesn't target a specific attestation schema. It can be reused in whatever thing.
I mean, you can use it whatever, but I still don't see a use case where you will not like to have it bound to the connection underneath. Did
Yeah,
you have a use case?
the
Because if
connection
you're
underneath
saying,
could be basically be done inside the concise evidence. It doesn't need to be explicitly expressed in this cosine envelope like in the OIT profile itself, but the concise
okay.
evidence itself can describe the connection.
You mean this which is shown with the color concise evidence map? Is it correct?
Yes, the concise
Okay,
evidence might can describe the connection.
okay. Okay, I misunderstood what Kiri was saying. Okay, thanks very much.
So I saw two hands raised, so Yogesh and Thomas. I
think
didn't know which
Thomas
one
went
was.
first. Thomas
Okay.
is first, so I will let Thomas ask.
Hey, Fabrizio, hi, thanks. I put the question on the slide on the chat, but I will repeat it here. And what I'm wondering is what is the exact role of the EAT wrapper here? Because it's just a very thin thing around the EcoEv, isn't it? In the sense that the EcoEv is a CBOR thing. Once you encode it and then you put it into a cosine 1, and you would have the same kind of security associated with that. The only thing that seems relevant here is the it nonce as an extra thing, but that kind of information could be put into the concise evidence possibly easily. So I was just wondering why we need an EAT wrapper around CoEv.
So let me, that's a very good question, Thomas. Initially, in fact, before it, we started with CoEv by itself. CoEv solves half of the problem, but not everything. CoEv doesn't have a signing schema. And when we started looking at CoEv, we started seeing things like, for example, SPDM transporting CoEv, which is probably how the spec was defined between the NTF and TCG. The CoEv was defined as a binding for a TCG attestation format and SPDM. The problem we came across is the signing schema, like assuming that you are using SPDM, which cannot be 100% of the case, but assuming that it's like 90% of the case, like for instance, for cases like TDISP, you're using SPDM for doing your attestation, like BNC, like using SPDM to retrieve your attestation from the device out of band. The problem we saw, Thomas, was on the transcript. Like one of the pain point for verifier using SPDM is the verification of the transcript, because it requires the verifier to have knowledge about SPDM, and which is kind of like this kind of coupling was annoying. And with this format, we went around it. We are saying, hey, we are no longer dependent on the SPDM signing schema. And that was the first thing. But on top of that, this heat profile is a full profile as we designed, because we describe the way the attestation key should be conveyed, like through an unprotected header. We define the kind of encapsulation, the order of the claims. Like you see it nonce here. It was a simplification of the diagram. There are other mandatory claims we are putting here, which we didn't find like necessary to put as part of this presentation. But you can look at the profile spec. You can see there are more claims that are required. And yeah, and the reason about the concise evidence is that while allowed to create a profile because it's specific enough, the profile to say you need to use a concise evidence, is also generic enough to be used by vari adopters.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Yogesh.
Yeah. Couple of things. Are you kind of when the SPDM transcript is converted into concise evidence?
No. Like the point here, one of the main point here was decoupling this from SPDM. Like you not necessarily need to use this over SPDM. Like even if you're having your CPU attestation in band that perhaps don't use SPDM, you can still use this one. Like there is a completely decouplement from SPDM here.
Okay. And second thing is, I would like to clarify. I think what you said was you have brought evidence triple record from TCG spec. So, Quorum reference triple record is just one record out in the evidence triple record. There are other triple records as well, like the identity triple, the attest key triple, which goes eventually in the evidence triple record. So,
Yeah,
just
that's correct. Like I was oversimplifying that. I agree
yeah,
with you. Thanks for the clarification.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Raman, you have a
Yeah.
question?
Hey, Fabrizio, quick question. So, who would sign who's the sign one envelope? Because we have to trust them and they have to be, uh, they have to have a hardware root of trust, correct? Somebody has to verify that the signing.
Absolutely. So this is a very good question. It's this key that is enveloped by the X5 chain certificate signed the envelope. So what it means here is that you have with this package you have in the unprotected portion of the header of the data structure, so unsigned portion of the data structure, you carry a certificate chain or at least the signing key certificate which signed it, and you either have to have like a certificate chain that can authenticate this AK cert or like a trust anchor in the best of the case that just a root CA that can authenticate the full chain. Ideally, in this unprotected chain here, you can, it's a protected header, you can pass the full certificate chain, which is emitted which somehow like include a device identity that is minted by the root of trust. And in case of, you guys can see at the code which we put into the Calyptra core, Calyptra NCO, like the root of trust Calyptra, will be the Calyptra device identity dice that will sign this.
Thanks.
All right, I see another question.
Yeah, sorry, I have so you're just what you answered led me to another question. So you what I'm seeing here is the EAT attestation key certificates, they are all unprotected.
Yes.
And I am thinking about the case of relay attack again, and I was wondering like so basically you are saying that you don't care about that attack for now. You let it profile and let the protocol designers take care of all these things and put in the concise evidence map thing, whatever they need to put in there in order to avoid the different attacks which are possible. Because the attestation key could come from another machine, right? So that's what I'm now thinking about.
Absolutely, like, and this doesn't change whatever, like, even if you do SPDM and you do get certificate and get measurement, the attestation key can be swapped and coming from another machine, you still have the same problem. And so you are not like, you need to like technically, yes, that's correct. Even with SPDM, you assuming that the device who owns this key is the same device to sign this because you have this nonce here signed. But you cannot 100% say that the device who owns this key is the one I'm talking to because you can have an interposer. So there will be other ways to solve this problem, which are outside of scope for this, but there was a problem you are having anyway, even with just SPDM, right? Because with SPDM, like basic SPDM, you do get certificate, you retrieve a certificate chain, and then you do get measurement. What you can guarantee is that the same key, that the leaf key of SPDM certificate chain is the key that signed the measurement.
Okay, thanks.
I see another question, but after this, I would really love to go over the other slide. Otherwise, we'll be half done yet.
Yeah, we we can keep you here for hours. So just as a final clarification on the EAT AK certs, so your intention here would then be that the OCP format always carries the whole search chain, because that also bloats it up, like that bloats up the single file, right? For the purpose of being kind of self-contained. But these search chains might, I don't know, have like 5, 6, 7 certificates depending on the device. So it might be large, right?
So I want to make a clarification. Probably I was not very thorough when I say that. So the requirement for the profile is to carry at least one cert, which is the attestation cert, just because of the problem we are describing. Otherwise, when we are going to PQC, RD will bloat like it will become a 10 meg. Like, yes, that's only like the only one required is the AK, but potentially they can be more, and this is done for convenience and everything else. But at least what is mandatory for the spec is having the AK cert here.
Okay, so optional, but possible. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. So if you guys don't mind, I'll let the word to. I'll turn this over to Giri, and that need to present other slides here. Giri, you want to continue here?
Yeah, I can do that. So the one of the critical one of the potential applications of the OCP EAT is trusted I/O devices. So these are for instance like GPUs and DPUs that can be attached to the device and who can have access to confidential VM memory. And such devices are generally accepted to be that they have to be attestable before before CVMs actually extend their memory to those devices. And as many people know here, the PCI SIG has defined a protocol for that, TDIS, to allow for retrieval of attestations from such devices. Those devices and the attestations can be retrieved using a protocol that runs on top of TDIS called SPDM, which is defined by a different organization, the DMTF. It's not strictly required that SPDM run over PCIe. So I'm sure several of us here on this call have worked on different implementations where you would not use a PCIe interface to communicate with certain devices, but still use SPDM to retrieve the attestation. But this is presented here as an example. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay. So OCP EAT token can be requested from the device using the SPDM get measurements message. And there is a pretty big difference from the standard SPDM handshake. The standard SPDM handshake is related to the transport, to SPDM as a transport, and certificates can be delivered from the device to the host using a get certificates command. In the case of OCP EAT, since the EAT is actually derived from the IETF COSE standard, the certificates are actually delivered in band as part of the EAT token in the appropriate header attribute, the X5 chain. So a sample OCP with just the mandatory claims is shown here. And I believe Thomas had asked why even use an OCP. And one of the things that I think motivated us was the fact that several claims in EAT Thomas had asked why use an EAT wrapper. Several claims in that were defined in EAT have actually been used extensively in the wild, and we wanted to reuse them. So the debug state is shown there, and the nonce and the measurement, which we also talked about, are all three EAT fields that are being reused in the OCP profile. There are several other optional claims that are defined, and you can go to the public-facing spec to see how to see what those claims are. But that was also a motivation for wanting to use EAT rather than just focus on COSE wrapping of concise measurements. I think we can go on, Abrevia.
So Parvati, you want to go on this slide?
Sure. Thanks, Fabricio and Giri. I think the rest of the slides are mainly zooming in on the details that Fabrizio and Giri have covered. This slide shows how the OCP EAT can be retrieved from an OCP device, Calyptra being the early adopter. I have given this as an example. But to retrieve the signed OCP EAT token, SPDM requester would start the connection with issuing the VCA, and then, if necessary, get certificate chain on a specific slot, and then goes ahead and issues get measurements at the measurement index FT, which indicates that the measurement block is a measurement manifest. And on receiving this request, the OCP device would prepare the OCP claims and encode this in the CBOR encoded as a CBOR encoded web token, and signs this with the EAT AK leaf, which is routed to a device identity CA. The requester or the verifier would have this as a trust anchor in their trust anchor store. Then the measurement block is sent within the SPDM measurement. This signed OCP EAT in CWT format is sent as a measurement block value within the SPDM measurement block. So requester receives this measurement block, and this measurement value itself, the signed EAT token, can be and can alone would be passed to the verifier, for example, a remote attestation. Going to the next slide.
I see an hand raised.
Yeah, so if you could please clarify this verifier. I'm trying to make sense of this from high level. So what I see is that basically you have the SPDM responder, which is the device, and on the SPDM requester, I believe that's the trusted execution environment which Giri was showing. That's own platform, that's the same that they have the SPDM connection. Is it correct?
It can be a case, but if you want to see the whole sense of the verifier, you might need to hold like another couple of slides, because there is the full vision that Parvati will kind of like light you.
Yeah,
Okay, but just to maybe just to get one idea. So is it going over the network, or is it within that same machine where that device is located?
I don't think that it really matters. Like on this part, it can be either.
These are merely the roles that we are specifying. They could be anywhere within the device, or could be over the network or between machines.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next slide. So this is how we think everything will come together, the evidence, reference, and the endorsement values for the attestation process. So this is how our vision is for the OCP EAT verification. The evidence is provided by the OCP device in a signed CWT format. And the reference values are provided by the supply chain entities in the form of CORIMs, which are also signed. And there can be optionally endorsements provided by third-party auditors, for example, like OCP SAFE. They would provide the endorsement in similarly the CORIMs, signed CORIM format. So the verifier typically would be provisioned with the trust anchor store that would be able to authenticate each of these inputs, conceptual messages. And the verifier would first authenticate each of this message, and then as a second step, each of this message is transformed optionally for an internal representation and a straightforward appraisal process, which is mere comparison of the fields within the reference values and the evidence values. And based on the result of each target environment appraisal, it provides a attestation result in a relying party specific format. The next, I see a hand up.
Yeah, Thomas, you have a question?
I do. Maybe it will be answered by the next slide, but I'll try to post it now. So this is perfect. That makes total sense to me. However, I would expect the OCP CWT to be present as in a larger aggregate, which is comprises the platform evidence, the workload evidence, and everything bound together in one lump. Then, when you are going to appraise the specific the OCP CWT, this picture applies perfectly. But you need to interpret that in the context, in the wider context, right? So, so the question I have is whether you are also specifying the kind of binding mechanisms between these signed OCP CWT and the rest of the evidence that could come from a given PCB. Or you are leaving this as an exercise to the reader. And in particular, related to the slide before this one, where the sequence diagram had a nonce that was input into the process.
Right.
It's not clear to me who controls this nonce, where it comes from. Thanks.
Yeah, I was going to say that I didn't show the nonce coming to the attester from the verifier or the relying party. This depends on the implementation. But the nonce would be provided. For the sake of simplicity, I didn't show the nonce here, but as explained earlier, the nonce would be provided from either the verifier, or verifier would have the nonce provided by the relying party or got from some other place, but verifier would have this reference claim to be verified for verifying the freshness of the evidence.
Okay, so just to be clear, that nonce is the one that is supposed to be broadcasted to all the various evidence generator.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, if we have SPDM requester and the verifier as separate roles, the verifier would provide the nonce to the SPDM requester, which uses it to issue the get measurements by populating that nonce in the request, and the same nonce would be included in the evidence.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to the next slide. Thank you, Parvati. Thanks, Thomas. And we are basically, Parvati is going to do a double click on all those three steps done by this verifier.
So this is again a high level overview, but there could be multiple other steps that I might be missing. But on the high level, all the inputs coming to the verifier needs to be authenticated. And what makes the EAT is it makes the authentication uniform with respect to how the signed quorums are authenticated. Basically, all these inputs are encapsulated in a COSI sign-one structure. So this verifier would have a provision trust store to authenticate each COSI sign-one structure payloads by verifying the signatures on them. And once we get the authentication checked out, we get the unsigned quorum collection or the OCP CWT, which is encoded in CBOR format. The next step would be to optionally input transformation, which as per the RATS architecture guidelines, it is internal representation is the ECT, which is environment claim tuples. This would closely represent the evidence and reference triples format with additional fields. For the simplicity sake, we just showed what is important here. So if you see the evidence triples aligns with the reference triple from the quorum, so the evidence we get in the measurement field of the EAT is in the evidence triples format, and each of these claims would be the target environment claims, and they match with the quorum reference values that are provided by the supply chain entities. And optionally, we can also have a third-party endorsements. In this example, we are showing the report coming from the OCP SAFE audit, and this would also be coming in the form of quorums and reference triples. And this would contain, a review report about each of the target environment or a device as a total. I see a question, Greg.
Yeah, it's going back a handful of slides. So if you want me to just wait till the end, I can, or I can interject it now.
Which slide you want me to go back to,
I
Greg?
actually, I'm trying to think through what was said about 25 minutes ago about the certificate chain that's included in the unprotected headers is requires the leaf certificate, but above that is optional. And I just I didn't understand the rationale for why the leaf certificate was required. If there's something to just point me to a doc to read, I can do that offline. But I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure that one out.
you're definitely welcome to look at the spec, and I can point you that. The reason why we wanted to get the attestation key cert as part of the IT is that there is a requirement for a profile to explain how the attestation key need to be like connected to the device, like to the token itself. And we found the best way to do that was like just include the whole certificate, the attestation key in the protected area of the section. Ideally, like we said, ideally you want to put also the device identity certificate and everything that is device specific in here into this. However, we cannot mandate that. And the reason why we didn't want to mandate that is that there are like we are always afraid of the PQC bloating things because of the sites, and there might be cases like where vendors don't really have size like room to include like 4 or 5 certificates inside this unprotected header. Consider that from like MLDSA 87 only the signature is around 5Ks, and like 5 certificates, like if you want to go to the old search chain, like you will get like other 25K only to put this only for the signature. So it's kind of like probably way too much, and we don't want to force that. So yes, ideally you want to put more certs, but just that attestation key cert certificate, it should be at least the minimum step for doing that, because you can connect this with SPDM get certificate and basically be able to authenticate this with a certificate chain coming from SPDM, for example.
Yeah,
I
agree with Greg.
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry, who
Greg.
said
It was me, Fritz. But go ahead, Greg. I have a similar follow-up because I don't buy it.
I think so. What I'm apologies on not understanding all the details, being a little bit kind of high level and fuzzy. But I think when I think about JWTs, JSON formatted EAT tokens, like the format we have, like when we generate an MAA, an appraisal token,
Yeah.
that also is an EAT token. We have a header in the header part of the JWT. We don't actually have the certificate. We have OpenID Connect kind of metadata that says, here's where you can go to find your certificate or certificate chain that backs this appraisal token. I think what I'm hearing is that the E requirement is you have some information that kind of starts letting folks unravel that signing key. And I think what you're saying is in the CBOR world, the simplest thing you can do is include the entire leaf cert. There's no option like to get even simpler and just like have an OpenID meta-connect.
I think there are simpler way to do it. I just thinking about getting the world certificate here is much easier because you have a concise way to provide in the same data structure both the leaf certificate and the that attestation itself.
Yeah, I mean, Codes A supports like transmission of a KID, right? A key identity, if you wanted to do it that way. This is the profile, though, that OCP defined.
Okay, so you're just putting a line in the sand and saying this is our, because I was just kind of in my head taking, I think, the reasoning for not doing the whole cert chain. I mean, me as a verifier, I love when I see the whole cert chain. That's my problem. I need the whole cert chain. So I love when the evidence format has the whole thing, and when it doesn't, then I have to go and find ways to put it together. And I thought what I heard here was, for reasons of space, we want to not include the cert chain.
It's not that we don't want to, like idea, like you can do it, and the profile will actually like not allowing to do it. The profile is just saying the only cert required is at least having as minimum the key. Then if you want to put the whole cert chain, it's better. But if we started like putting as a requirement, then we're basically saying, hey, how many devices can actually implement this. Like we started like carving too much road, but the ideal scenario is what you are describing, and I agree with you. It's just like with PQC coming up, we felt a bit of having a cold feet to go to that approach because of the size constraint.
Can I
guess,
put my wound on
I
that?
don't-
Can I put my finger on that wound there? Because I think it's like I totally understand this hesitancy, but that makes it just then not useful in practice, right? Because you do need the full chain to understand everything. And I
No,
see Stephen raised his
yes,
hands. I'm very interested to see what he says about it.
it-
But you need the full chain. So if you need
I
the full chain anyway, why include even one certificate?
No, let me explain this and then I let the word to Steven. Because
Okay.
you have, we will create a binding with SPDM where you basically will get the full chain by get certificate. And your leaf key that you're using here doesn't really necessarily need to match with the leaf key that signed the transcript of the SPDM for separation of concern. You don't want the leaf key from SPDM to be the same key that signed the skit, because then the same key will sign a transcript and will sign the it. So then this it AK certificate can be authenticated by the endorsement chain coming from get certificate, and this will be described very correct, like very thoroughly, when we'll put together a binding between the e profile, OCP profile, and SPDM. But yes, I agree that this is a concern, but depend, like we will leave the clarification of this concern to the binding, and for SPDM we'll put this information together.
Is this EAT AK cert, that leaf cert, is it self-signed in any circumstance, or is it always
No,
signed by an
no,
issuer?
no, it must be signed by a root of trust device identity.
Device identity key.
Okay, so a dice cert chain.
Yeah, this is just the leaf of the die.
Okay.
The dice cert chain could be one. It's just like we didn't want to like.
And I guess if we go to that diagram, how are verifiers supposed to get the cert chain? Is that just exercise left? I mean, we can't complete the scenario without it, and
Yes.
Yeah, I guess there are several ways. In addition to the EAT, the requester could also send certificate chain as a bundle, which can be used to authenticate the EAT token. I did not show that for the simplicity because optionally, as Fabricio mentioned, this entire read cert chain can also be included in the EAT itself, in the X5 chain. But if that's not the case, the SPDM requester could always bundle it together and send it to the verifier.
Yeah, I understand there's lots of ways this can be done. And this may not be, it's totally fine to just say it's not in scope for the work we're doing. We just want to focus on the format, and for these reasons we want to keep the cert here to not require the cert chain, and that's fine. But I'm still asking the question, right? For someone writing a verifier,
Yep.
Are we just left on our own and we're all going to go do something different, or is there some other conversations happening somewhere that might be standardizing this or something?
Yes, and that's what I was saying. Let me try to answer. It's not the scope of the EAT profile, but will be scope on the OCP attestation specification on how to do it. And part of the scope of OCP attestation specification for SPDM will be explaining, having some normative language to use the get certificate to be able to, from SPDM, to be able to authenticate this cert. So there will be like a binding specification from OCP. They will discuss this. It will not be, it's out of scope of the profile, but I don't believe it's full out of scope for OCP itself.
Is there a link to that spec or something in the slide deck, an appendix or something, or that's still to be written? Or
it's still like OCP attestation spec is a work in progress right now. We are all collaborating, so it's not done yet. I can give you the link to it, but it's not completed yet. So, but then it's going to be the place where you will find answers to your question here, Greg.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful.
I see a lot of questions in the order. Steven, you should be the first.
So within OCP security for data center devices, both Microsoft and Google are advocating for as much as possible to eliminate non-volatile memory from devices. So they see persistent non-volatile memory on devices as a security threat. And so they're moving to things like streaming boot, where you have uh, a separate thing on the platform that loads firmware into these devices that don't have non-volatile memory for their firmware. And so this is consistent with that you want to minimize the amount of non-volatile memory on a device. And so you only include the pieces of the certificate chain that are device specific. And in particular, for like the leaf certificate, the public key for the leaf certificate could be dynamic. So that can change, based on what firmware you load. So that's one of the drivers for this.
So thanks, Stephen. Yeah, that's very correct. Thomas, you had a question too.
Yeah, it's an easy one, I suppose. If you go back to the big picture with all the the end-to-end thing with the appraisal. Next, yes, this one. I had understood that the safe things are endorsed values, not reference values, and therefore I was confused when in the next slide they are presented as ref value triples.
Oh, that's a typo. There should not be a
Okay,
reference.
Yeah.
okay, great. Sorry.
Sorry.
My
Good
head
catch.
exploded and
No, no, no. I apologize. That's a good catch. Like I'm seeing right now. This is a typo. It should be an endorsement
All
triple.
right.
Sorry.
Thank you. No problems. Thank you.
Sorry, could you say
Okay.
again? I wasn't quite fast enough to keep up there.
So what Thomas asked, like why we are putting reference triple on the quorum, since quorum is an endorsement here, and what I was mentioned to Thomas, this is a typo here, like we just type a reference triple, probably a copy and paste typo, but it should be the conditional endorsement triple. I don't remember the exact name convention from quorum, but should be an endorsement triple, not a reference triple. Reference triple comes from supply chain entity, which is typically the vendor only, not from third-party endorsement columns.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Fabrizio.
Thank you.
So I have a question on if you go back one slide where you were showing the patrons. So in here, I'm still confused. Like here you are showing the verifier. I understand that you are saying that these are the roles and not necessarily the same thing. But I believe there is a big difference if you have it within the entity and outside over the network. Like within the entity, you are just creating these claims. And over the network, there is a network adversary which you have to take care of. And I am not following how the two slides link together. Here you are showing that the requester has the verifier. How does this relate to the next slide in which you are showing the verifier?
This is just an example. It's not that it's the only way to retrieve the hit. This is just an
Sure,
example.
sure,
This is
but
SPDM.
it's an example, that's fine. But I mean, do you have some real implementation, something implemented, or is it just, hey, we have some idea, we have some higher level bits, and we are trying
No,
to combine them together? And what stage is it from implementation perspective?
from implementation perspective, Calyptra subsystem is implementing this as part of the NCU reference code. And that's why we use SPDM for the subsystem perspective. It makes sense that you have SPDM as the protocol to retrieve the evidence from the device.
So in that implementation, where do you have that verifier? Where exactly is the
The,
verifier? Is
the,
it going over the network?
We still haven't implemented the verifier entirely,
but
but
from Calyptra perspective, it doesn't matter where the verifier
yes.
is.
But I mean, from security perspective, it does matter, right? So you have having a verifier within the relying party is just a two-party protocol, and if you have that verifier outside, now you have two separate TLS or whatever the SPDM or TLS or whatever the protocol you are using. So you have two separate connections. It's incredibly difficult to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Osama. But what I'm saying, this is completely out of scope for the profile. Like
Yes.
that's an attestation model you are trying to describe here. Whether you use this profile or another profile, you're using another read, you still have the same problem. Like it's just how we are defining your attestation trust boundary and your threat modeling for your attestation, but it's not really related to how you define the profile here.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we have just 1 minute. I don't know if you have time for another question or not.
Yeah, we do have other topics on the agenda. I don't think 1 minute is going to be enough to discuss those, Usama.
But
Um,
would be nice to have you again next time, Fabrizio, if
Yeah,
there's more you want to
exactly.
talk about.
We should have this session again next week and go through this again so that next time, whenever we meet, I mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine
Continue.
with that.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to raise an issue that's been ongoing for 2 months. I have presented like 4 times. I see that at least Dan is here. So, from a perspective of like the charter perspective, I almost always have to go through this process, which is unfair. I believe that there has been a violation of the non-technical charter. Point number 4, which I have put already in the agenda, and I really want the SIG chairs to clarify what exactly the problem is. The thing that has been raised on the issue is really something which I haven't heard before. It's saying that, hey, it's not adopted, we are discussing use cases, and this is really discrimination. The project number 7, which was another adopted SIG project. So ITF TLS working group at that point in time was discussing completely different things. So I really want to debate this issue, and I really want this resolved because I have presented it for 4 times. I have resolved all concerns of the SIG at all times. I have asked each and every time, hey, if you have a question, just ask. And this is really a total discrimination, which I want really to end it. And when it's a chair project, it proceeds really smoothly. And when it's a non-chair project, when it's proposed, it's really a lot of hindrance, a lot of delays. And this is not productive for the chair. I have done 2 complete projects for the SIG. And it's really, I really want to appeal against this. And I really want the tax chair to take action against this and resolve it in a manner which is like a permanent resolution, and not really that every time I have to come to the tax chair, I have to come to to the SIG and ask that, hey, this is a violation of this. 4 weeks since the proposed project and 2 months presenting it 4 times is more than enough. Like this is really, I strongly believe that there has been a violation of a lot of things, which I can go into the debate of why that projects were adopted. For example, the RATLS project, that's been a complete failure. And Shanwai has left. Nobody is taking up the project. The second project which has been adopted, and that's other than the formal verification work that I have done for 3 years, there has been absolutely no change in the repo. If you want to see, you can go there and see in the repo for 3 complete years, there has been absolutely no change in the project. And that's what I want to put forward to the SIG, to the tax chair, and I really want some discussion on this and end to this discrimination. Keith, go ahead, please.
Yes. Usama, I've not been present in these meetings for a few different sessions. Having this framed as a form of discrimination is a pretty, specific accusation. I know Dan is here as the TAC kind of steward, or the TAC liaison for this SIG. I'm also on the TAC. I wonder if the chairs and Dan and I should meet to discuss the situation and see if we can find the right path forward. What do you think, Dan?
Keith, no, Keith. I really want a permanent discussion and to happen it within the SIG. So the last time I want to remind you that I had a separate discussion with the SIG chairs and it was resolved. But I'm seeing that this is happening repeatedly. This is not a one-time action. This is a repeated action. If you see in the meeting minutes notes, you will see that there was a violation of the section number 4 of the non-technical charter. I can actually also give you the date for that, and I had to take this path. This is not fair. I want it resolved within the SIG meetings, and everyone from the meeting, from the SIG chair, from the SIG should actually know that what has happened. This should be on recording, and everyone should see that what's going on. This should be transparently done and not done under the doors. Like this is not acceptable.
Okay, I would need to get caught up on this, so maybe I should put my hand down. But Dan, are you still on the call?
I am. And I see that the chairs provided a decision to the proposal. I'm sorry to see that that decision was not something that obviously the proposer is happy with. But I don't think that we can turn that into a discriminatory claim. I think everybody in this call has been in the experience of proposing something and not having that proposal accepted.
That's not correct, Dan. So nobody else has ever proposed any project which has not been accepted in the SIG. Please give me some reference, some concrete reference of who has actually proposed this project. There has been only 4 projects which have been proposed. One was proposed by me. Two have been proposed by me. They have been accepted. One was proposed by you and Shanwai. That was accepted. One was proposed by Paul, Hannes, me, and like 5 or 4 people. That was accepted. There was no other project proposal which was ever proposed to the SIG. Please provide me a
I just
concrete
mean
reference.
in our careers, we go through times where we propose things and those things aren't accepted. And so we have to find a way to build support for those things if they really matter to us, and then find a way to build that support. Or we
Sure.
move on.
So if you then sorry, I have to cut you. If you are talking about the support, just look at that issue, right? So there have been, like, as I said, in the 4 different meetings, everyone has shown his support. If you see, there are 4 different companies who are saying that, hey, we are ready to develop this implementation, and they need some common place in order to work together, because otherwise the 4 developers who are developing this, they will develop completely different things, and how will we bring them together to do one standardized things, which is the purpose of the SIG. And that's really my concern, that if we don't take it up now, it's when will be the right time to do it, because it's getting late. So these 4 developers who are working on it will go different directions, and they need some guidance. They need some what to put in where and so on. So if you talk about the support, I have already addressed this concern in the issue, and I have referenced you 4 different drafts of the IETF, which have actually 3 different drafts which have already adopted it. If you see in the issue, that's already there. The 4th author of the IETF has committed to adopting it and has requested me some details, which I am providing him. So there is support from the IETF. There is support from the SIG already. I don't see what kind of support else you need. So everyone is on board except the chairs, and I don't see why it's being delayed. I want, for example, like as I said, in each and every meeting, I'm asking, hey, if you have questions, just ask. So my concern is that why they are raising concern after 2 months, that, hey, we don't actually, and the concern is actually not a concern. So what kind of concern that is? I mean, I don't really follow what the concern is. The concern is saying, hey, it's not adopted by the seat working group. Why is that a concern? Which project of the SIG, just tell me that which project of the SIG had something adoption. There is no such condition in the IETF this in the SIG charter. There is no such condition or a prerequisite for anything
So
that
I
we have
apologize,
done
but
or
I am
adopted.
overdue for my next meeting. See that the chairs have responded to you, and I understand that that response is not what you wanted. But the chairs have responded, and then the community needs to move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a fair thing that I want. So Jim, Greg, and Thomas, I see, has already left. So sorry, Thomas is also here. So I want this to be resolved. So what's your leftover concern? I have responded to what you have said. So what's the leftover concern that you have?
I haven't read your reply yet, Osama, so I cannot tell.
Okay, please read whenever it's possible for you. Jim, you have any leftover concern from what's already answered there?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look. I haven't had a chance as well to look at it, but let me give that some priority.
Okay, thank you very much. So Keith,
Okay.
Keith, can I just as an ending note, so can I request you to ask the chairs to do it absolutely until the next meeting, in the TAC meeting, and we discuss it in the TAC meeting. If you can please arrange the time for this, I want it resolved next week, please.
Okay, we're way over now. So appreciate you expressing concerns, Osama, and let's get this resolved.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Okay, bye.